Hello, how are you doing, sir?
I'm great, sir. How are you doing?
Th- Thank you so much for your
I'm
great
happy
help.
with you. I'm happy to be with you again, sir.
Thank you so much. I'm at your service, Dr. Bolati.
Thank you, sir.
If there is any problem, something. Thank
Yeah, sure. Definitely we will use your help.
خب تصویر مبارک رو بدید آقای دکتر بزرگیان
چشم
اگه صدا
دکتر
منو میشنوید.
ببخشید. دکتر فکر
خب
کنم اوکی شده.
سلام آقای دکتر
سلام،
بزرگیان،
عرض ادب. خوبی آقای دکتر؟
حال شما
مخلصم.
چطوره؟
شما خوبین؟ صبح بخیر.
خیلی خوش آمدید.
خیلی
خیلی
ممنون،
خوش آمدید.
تشکر. قربون شما.
آرزوی سلامتی برای جناب عالی و
ممنونم آقای
ممنون
دکتر.
از قبول
سلام
دعوت.
خدمت
خواهش میکنم.
استاد بزرگوار جناب آقای دکتر بزرگیان عزیز.
ارادتمند آقای
خیلی
دکتر
خوش
عبداللهی
آمدید.
عزیز.
خیلی
فدای شما
ممنون.
بشم. قربون شما، متشکریم.
خیلی خوب، ما برای اینکه زمان رو از دست ندیم الان فعلا یک نمره منفی این 180 نفره که اومدن که خب نمره مثبت میگیرن، یعنی سر وقت اومدن. بقیه که نیومدن لطفا بعدا توضیح بدن که چرا سر وقت نیستن. نمیشه که وقتی میگیم 9 it means 9 sharp. All right. Uh, well, in the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, it is my pleasure to introduce to you dear Dr. Bozorgian,
You're welcome, doctor.
A close friend of mine.
And a student of yours.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, thank you.
The associate professor of ELT from Mazandaran University, was done his PhD in Australia. Has been a great help to the discourse community and to myself
Thank you.
in running some programs here and there. And we are so happy that he has accepted our invitation to be one of the team members.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So I also need to thank, I don't know whether Hamdatou Torbati Nejad is there as well. I need to thank Dr. Abdullahi, the manager of the research department, who has worked hard with his colleagues in the department to make this event happen. Also, I need to thank the colleagues in the education vice managership, if you like, for all the efforts they have done so far to make this event a memorable one. Not least, I need to thank all my professors, including Dr. Farhadi, and my colleagues from different universities and from ILI, who has worked hard to make this event an academic, skill-based, theory and practice-based work, so that by the end of this TTC, we come up with effective ILI teachers, and also learn that we have so great a potential in this country, not only to have professional development courses for the in-service teachers, pre-service teachers for the country, not just ILI, for the whole country, and make these things happen in the region, for the region as well. And I'm quite sure that we can do it in future. Well, we are not saying that what we have been doing so far is complete. We are not saying that there is no criticism to the event and to the introductory things that we have been doing for the exam, for the announcement, for the courses, for the tasks, for the evaluation of the products. Yet we have been doing our best and will be doing our best for the remaining time of this TTC as well. Need to mention again that this TTC is evaluation based, and everybody is supposed to do his job on time so that by the end of 20th of Azar, we will have those who go through all the stages successfully are actually announced to become ILI teachers. This does not mean that the others who are not actually accepted as the final products of this TTC are not actually competent enough to become teachers. They are, yet they may not be uh, having priority for this first round of employment. So, آقای دکتر بزرگیان, thanks again.
You're welcome.
The other 249 applicants were there. Thanks again. And
You're welcome. My
the
pleasure.
floor is Dr. Bozorgian's, and we are all ears.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Kiani. We are in high debt into you. Just I'm looking for my PowerPoints. I wonder if it is available. Bobak, can you? Yeah. Okay. So where's the shifting?
Well, sir, if you go on the box where the PowerPoint is displayed, you can see arrows actually at
This
the
is what
bottom
I'm
of
looking for
the
the arrow.
page. Yeah.
So
Do you have the arrows?
no, I don't have the arrows. I've got the maximizer and I've got minimizer.
Excuse me,
No
Dr.
arrows.
Bozorgian, if
Yes,
you
please.
push the button next to the hand up there, you can see some buttons.
Oh, yes, there is.
If
No,
you push the button, you can be in charge of the slides for
so that's the
moving
issue. I
them
don't.
backward and forward.
Yeah, yeah, Dr. Abdullahi, if I'm not mistaken. I've got
Sir,
the. Yeah.
I'm sorry. There's a button like a play button,
It
next to
is.
the hand icon. Yeah. Just
I got
tap
that.
on that button, then I believe you can get the control.
Still, I don't have that. So I click on the.
Babak, you do it yourself. But you can.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
change.
Don't waste time, please.
wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much, Bobak. This is about the workshop. We're supposed to focus on teaching, listening. And this is like Dr. Kiani introduced me, Hossein Buzurgian from University of Mazandaran. Bobak, you gotta just help me to shift this slide. But still, I don't know why I can't make it. So words of appreciation. To begin with, I would really like to appreciate Dr. Kiani, the head of the ILI, and his advisors, Dr. Abdullahi and Dr. Karimi and Ms. Mofidi, and a few others whose names I don't know. And I really appreciate them for their efforts providing such opportunities for you teachers as well as we colleagues to provide our own experience regarding the specific field we're supposed to work on, which is listening comprehension in this workshop. And I would also welcome the applicants. I wish I could see the number here. This is what Dr. Kiani said, more than 200 applicants or participants.
258 now.
Yeah,
258.
250 participants. That's good. And I would also to take this opportunity to congratulate these participants for their passing language proficiency test, which is really important for a language teacher to be a fluent. And I really envy you at this stage because you are collecting a lot of experience from my colleagues, series of workshops, and this is a very small part of it. Yeah, I wish I were in your shoes when I was at your age. Okay, next one. So actually, I'm going to give you a sort of helicopter view of what a two-part workshop is about. The first part is going to be theoretical lens on listening comprehension. You're going to be given adequate information, what listening is and what listening process is like, and then um, your attitude towards teaching listening. There's going to be a survey, and then you're going to walk through the survey and then respond to the eight items. And then you're going to be in the know of historical takes on teaching listening. This is what a very quick overview of the first part. And the second part, we're going to theorize metacognition into practice and introducing metacognitive instruction and unpacking metacognition. And also, I'm going to let you know about how we can practice metacognitive instruction through an activity. This is the innovation of this workshop. And next slide, please. So, and for this part of the workshop, this is a quick snapshot. I wish we could have the PowerPoint. This is the PDF. It might be a little bit overloaded. Okay.
I'm
About
sorry,
the
sir.
yes.
The platform itself changes it into PDF format, so
Oh, it's because of
we
that.
don't
Yeah.
have features of
Yeah.
PowerPoint
Nobody.
here.
Yeah. Nobody's on the blame. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
You're welcome.
And about the survey on the issues of teaching and learning listening, the intention of the survey is to pick up your current attitudes towards what is that for teaching and learning listening. And then we've got the survey analysis. Right after you've responded to the survey, I'm going to provide a quick report of the analysis of your responses. Then we're going to have a scenario. Scenario is about sort of observation of a class, and then you're going to walk through the observation. Then we're going to analyze the scenario. Then I would ask you about your reflections on that. And then we're going to focus on teaching listening and learn to listen. This is very important. Unfortunately, it is neglected in almost all classes, and teachers normally skip it. And becoming strategic L2 listeners. This is very important. This is what the innovation of this workshop is going to be. And we're going to discuss what strategies we're supposed to work on. And then I'm going to help you to actually know about the current approaches for listening instruction, such as text-oriented instruction, communication-oriented instruction, as well as learner-oriented instruction, each of which is going to be well unpacked later on. And this sort of, these approaches would definitely help us to find out the gap, which is going to be more holistic approach to L2 listening instruction. And next slide, please. Okay, this is the survey on the issues of teaching and learning listening. And I would just navigate you through this quick survey, and then I would share, actually this is probably Bobak would share it because I send it through WhatsApp to Bobak and he will
Yes,
share it
sir.
with you.
I did it. In your chat box, you can find a link to the.
Unfortunately, the chat box for me is not active. I don't know why, but probably. So I can see participants posting something, but Even I can see.
Sir, you can add that chat box from very top of your screen. There is a menu,
So, well, back, I will send a screenshot of what I have here. Then you can easily guide me.
yeah.
So just hang on. Okay, I've just sent the screenshot of what my
Okay, I got
screen
it.
is like.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so you can share the link with the participants, and while they are clicking on the link and they are listening to me, and this is a survey on the issues of teaching and learning listening. And we've got 8 items, and we've got a rating from 1 strongly disagree and disagree rating, 2 slightly disagree rating 3, and partly agree rating 4, and agree rating 5, and strongly agree rating 6. And the first one, I will read it to you, and so that you have a better picture. If you need clarification of each and every item, please give us a shout, and then I can explain. Number one, compared with the speaking, reading, or writing, listening is a passive activity. Number two, please bear in mind, you must choose just one option. You've got 6 options. You must choose just one option. Either what? Strongly agree or disagree or something like that. Okay. Um, and number two, the most important thing in listening instruction is that the student get the right answers. Number two, learner anxiety is a major obstacle in L2 listening. Number four, listening means understanding words, so teachers just need to help learners understand all the words in the sound stream. Number five, teaching listening through video is better than audio alone. Number six, learners with good listening ability in their first language will also become good L2 listeners. Number seven, when teachers provide learners with the context for a listening activity, they give away too much information. And number eight, interactive listening in conversation with another speaker is more difficult than one way listening. That's all about the radio and television. This is the survey. You've got a few minutes to walk through and respond to each and every item. Then I would provide you with the analysis of your responses.
So please click on the link I have provided you, and then you can actually put your answer through the Google Docs. You can participate in this survey, and in a couple of minutes, we will continue.
Yeah,
Sir,
sure.
one thing, I believe your internet browser have some problem with this platform
No, I
because
guess
you
so.
have the chat box, but the fonts and the words actually are not displayed
So you know,
correctly there.
I'm going to change the device if possible. Is that
Yeah,
okay,
that
or
would help
just
you.
yeah?
You need to actually sign in again if you want to
Oh,
do that.
okay. Yeah. So then it would be better. I would be in contact with the participants so that we can
Yeah, I
interact.
believe so. I believe
Yeah.
so. It's a
So
problem.
I'll be back in a few minutes. Is that okay?
That's fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you can. Thank you. Yeah, while you're actually answering these items, uh, Dr. Bozorgian will join us in a couple of minutes.
Mr. Doulati, is the task to be completed already there?
Yes, sir. I have sent the link, and participants are actually answering the items, and they are, you know, actually acknowledging their participation by writing done in the chat box.
Mm. How about,
Actually,
yeah, go ahead.
Dr. Bozorgian didn't have a very good, net browser, and he couldn't see the chat box either, and as well the participant's name. So it was really difficult for him to continue in that fashion. I think if he can change his system, this would be solved.
Well, he's trying. He's trying. Anyway, even if it's not possible, that can be done in another way. So, I mean, how about the questionnaire for the evaluation of this particular class? The link for that as well done.
Yeah, actually,
Ready for
I
that? Yeah.
just sent a message to Dr. Abdullahi to provide me with the link, and as soon as I got the link, I would send it for the
Yes,
participants. Send
exactly.
it to the
After the
participants.
class, it will be uploaded
Okay.
in the
Good.
web on the
Thank
website.
you.
The doctor.
Good. Uh, could I possibly ask the participants, at least those who are not answering the survey now, uh, to click on, I mean, to write one if they have done the tasks so far of the previous courses. Uh, yeah, write one, and those who haven't yet done it, write two, please. Now the majority have done it. Good. That's nice. Yeah. Well, for those of you who have not done it yet, could you write down the reasons why, please? Yeah. Well, back in. Meanwhile, you're trying to get Dr.
Yes, sir.
Bozorgian back, please.
I'm
Yeah, I
in
mean,
contact with
have your
him.
microphone off, phone him, and so that
Sure.
help him out, please. Okay, those who haven't done it yet, please write down the reasons why you have not succeeded yet. I mean, extend the time. Not possible. I'm sorry. We have talked about it so many times before. Was the task part of it? Yes, of course. We have خانم فاطمه قلعه کنه. We have said it several times. Doing all the tasks is compulsory, mandatory, and they all will be rated, and you will have a portfolio during this course, consecutive assessment. I know that you're students and teachers, but this is what you have applied for. I do understand them. You do need to understand us as well, please. Okay? We don't have time. I understand that. You have to make the time. The number of classes are so much. Understand that. We do know that more time. Uh, Well, we خانم آزاده whatever, we told you about the period of time at the very, very first uh, announcement that the course will be taking place between 10 to 21 for this first two modules, and the last module would be between round about 6 to 16, I reckon, of Ozarma. And our colleagues are so busy doing all the assessments, etc., to get the things done so that for next semester we will have our teachers uh, to be employed. We need them for the next semester, which is not far away anyway. Thank you. Uh, well, you disagree. Well, you can disagree, but this is our policy. Give us more time for homework. Unfortunately, I missed two of the assignments. Is it possible? What do you mean by that? Well, maybe all right, I'm not going to tell the plan for possible things that we might be doing for these tasks, but you do go ahead with your tasks on time.
Okay, we're joined by Dr. Bozorgian again, and
All
Yeah,
right.
we
I'm
can go ahead.
sorry.
Yes,
آقای تو
Yeah,
بزرگان، من
yeah.
اسیستنت شما بودم این دقایقی که
Oh,
جناب آقای زمین نوشتید.
thank you very much. I'm sorry for that because
چیزی رو
I
دوستم
had
خراب
to
خودم انجام.
yeah, I had
All
to
right,
change
go
the
ahead.
device. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Now I reckon I've got the full control of what the whole system is about. And okay. So I can see. So about shifting the slide still, I can.
Sir, all you need to do is to click on the play button next to the hand icon.
I did.
Yeah, now just click on Pash. So I think you can control
Patch.
مدیریت
Oh,
فایل ها.
yes. So I need to choose the file, I guess.
Yeah, you choose the file. It is at the very bottom of the list. Workshop Teaching Listening, part 1.
Workshop. It is.
Click on play, Pash.
The patch is not active.
Oh,
That's
that's
what.
weird.
Yeah. That's really weird. Okay.
So we can continue, yeah. I
Yeah,
would
we can
change.
continue. I would check out the analysis of the participants' survey. So I will tell you how many uh, has participated. Yeah, the responses I have here. So around 160 participants participated. So the average was 29. So if we've got the next slide. So about the survey analysis, once again, I'm sorry, just I have to change my device in order to be in contact with you better. About the survey analysis, the average was 29. The minimum score for the average is 8 and the maximum score is 48. it shows that you are neither strategic nor traditional in terms of teaching and learning listening. It means that you are just between devils and deep blue sea on the horn of dilemma. So the closer the score is to the minimum one, so means 8, the more your belief on the process of teaching and learning falls. Then you're going to be a strategic teacher or listener. And about the maximum score is 48. The closer the score is to the maximum one, the more your belief on the product of teaching and learning falls. It means that you more believe in testing listening rather than teaching it. Okay, next slide. So this is what the analysis of your attitudes towards teaching and learning listening was. And now about the scenario. Now I want you to read the scenario, and then we're going to analyze this scenario. Uh, as you are reading it silently, I would read it to you. Scenario. It is time for class 2B to have their listening lesson. Miss Campbell tells her students to take out their course book and look at the listening exercise on pages 28 and 29. She tells them that they will be listening to a passage about wedding rites of a group of people who live in Asia. Next, she tells them to read the question and multiple choice answers for the listening passage very carefully. She explains that this will help them find out what the passage is about as well as what to listen for when the recording is played. When the class is ready, she plays a CD recording of a listening passage. The students listen attentively and select what they think is the correct answer to each question. When the recording ends, Miss Campbell plays it a second time so that learners can check their answers. After this, she goes over each question and gives them the correct answer. Finally, she checks how individual learners have performed and then goes over some of the difficult questions and explains the correct answers. When this is done, the class moves on to the next part of the lesson, which requires them to write short composition based on what they have heard from the passage. Now you have 2 minutes to decipher what this scenario is about so that we would be able to analyze it. And we're going to get the picture of what listening is like in this class.
I'm sorry, sir. Do you
Yes.
have any device or microphone around your laptop? Because participants actually complaining about the rattling noise. If you have
No,
such a device, or
no, no.
would you
I
please
have
check
the,
your?
I have another laptop. I have my cell phone around. Nothing.
Yeah,
No,
I
nothing is
think
on.
yeah, it's a rattling noise, something like a
So,
cricket, maybe.
so is it
So
is it is it for you too?
not bothering for me, but I think others have
No,
some problem.
I don't know. That's probably because of the internet. No, nothing. I don't have
Yeah,
anything.
maybe. Okay.
So just the laptop. Mine, another
Some of
laptop
the
is on.
participants are complaining about it.
Oh, probably
That's a,
because of the their nets
their
could be.
connection. Yeah, maybe.
Mhm. So no microphone except for my hands free.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Baba, can we go to the next slide? So, about the scenario analysis, um, what we've been considering in terms of scenario, it was about reading the comprehension questions and multiple answers. So, listeners were drawn to check out the comprehension questions and multiple answers. to understand about the topic, listening topic, responding to the questions after the first listening, check out the responses after the second listening, teacher making sure everyone gets the right answers or responses. Finally, the teacher assigns a writing composition about the listening topic. I'm sure that you've got a clear picture of what this scenario is about. As you can see, that's all about reading, that's all about writing, that's all about checking at the answers, comprehension questions. So, what is missing here? It's about teaching listening. So, can you see it? Bobak, can you shift this slide? And now your reflections. About the first question, Bobak, I want the participant to respond, and I don't know how I can help them to respond. Number one, does this listening lesson resemble any of the listening lessons that you have experienced as a learner or taught to your students? What are the similarities or differences? Anyone?
Yeah, we have answers in the chat box, and also if anyone wants to participate orally, I can activate their microphone. Just raise your
So,
hand.
yeah, somebody's complaining that she doesn't have enough time to do the activity, but that,
Sir, I believe
that's,
you're reading the old messages. Just browse your chat box down so you can see the recent
yeah, yeah,
messages.
yeah, that was the old one. I should scroll it down. Yeah, exactly the same. They're saying exactly the same. Time limitation. Yeah, complaining about teaching listening. Yeah, this but Masumi Yusufi. And similarity is the post listening part. Uh-huh. So, okay. Um, it shows that each and every individual participant has had similar experience. Oh, in the past, that was like, yes, a lot of teachers don't teach us. Yes, you're right. Uh-huh. Very good, Bobak. I guess you've done something different. Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay. So there was not enough warm up. So can you see the warm up here? That's pre-listening stage. The students were asked to check out the comprehension questions and multiple answers. Uh-huh. So it shows that every so the method of the online is the same as the scenario, is it? So if so, that's traditional. Uh-huh. If pre-teaching the what's that? Blocking words, that will be much more. Uh-huh. Okay. So it shows that you've got similar experience of what this scenario is about. And number two, do you think it is useful to ask learners to preview the comprehension questions? Why or why not? Now, I want you to respond to this question. Some are saying yes. Why do you believe that students should review the comprehension questions? So that's about the techniques in IELTS exam. So that, this is true. That's all about the testing. You know, the issue is we have not taught our students how to listen, but before teaching them, we are testing. That's not testing. We are teachers. We're supposed to teach it, like teaching reading, teaching speaking, teaching writing, and teaching listening, you know, has been some sort of neglected. That's why, we are consistently testing listening rather than teaching it. Yeah. So if we draw our students' attention to the comprehension questions, what is going to be the problem? The problem is going to be students would get stressed out. What if they are not responding correctly? So, we are putting a truckload of pressure on our students, even if they make a mistake, because it helps them to have the overview. Okay, so I want you to stay with your own ideas. Then I would tell you what else we can do. That's why we are going to see what is the current approaches for teaching listening is. And number three, some people would say that this lesson tests listening rather than teaches it. What is your response to this view? Do you agree with that? hmm I reckon everyone does. So, what is the role of teaching listening? Okay. So the majority are on the same page. That's good. And what purpose does the listening activity serve? How does it influence language learning? The last question. I'm just a bit speeding it up so that we would make up for the time we have lost. What was the survey? So, the survey showed that you are neither strategic nor traditional in terms of teaching and learning listening. So somebody was asking about survey. Too late. Uh-huh. Improving other skills. Someone has posted an idea. Enough knowledge of language help them. Uh-huh. So the purpose of listening in the scenario was to serve or to help other skills such as reading and writing. Can you see it? At the end of the class, the teacher assigned a composition of the listening topic they have been listening. So that was all about the scenario. Now I reckon that's enough. We have discussed this scenario. Bye bye. Teaching, listening, and learn to listen. Why should we teach listen? Yeah. Why should we teach listening and why should we learn to listen? The reason is listening is very important, is closely related to other skills and facilitates overall proficiency. If you are in the know of the research finding, it shows that the more an individual's listening ability is, the more his or her overall language proficiencies. There is a close a relationship between the two. And a listening rarely are taught how to manage spoken input or message like other skills. So if you consider, this is what most of you agreed on, and this is what we have analyzed the scenario, we have seen that listeners were not taught how to listen. Listeners were instead tested. And learners are left to improve their listening, and the reason is that most teachers are unsure of how to teach listening in a principled way. Sometimes we are blaming our teachers on not to teach listening, but we should bear in mind that we gotta teach our teachers how to teach listening. And because of that, teachers are unsure of how to teach listening in a principled way. This is the point we're going to uh, take away from this workshop. Yeah, next slide, please. No connection between researchers and teachers. So there is a lack of link between research findings and classroom practice. And teachers justifies inadequate class time. This is one of our colleagues mentioned it earlier. Teachers keep complaining that they don't have time, they're running short of time, and they don't know how to teach listening explicitly, though they agree on and know the value of teaching listening. Probably the same story is true to you. And you believe in teaching listening, but you may not know how to teach it. And teachers should have a clear understanding of how listening process takes place and how much metacognition plays a role in improving listening. So to understand listening process, I'm going to navigate you through a landmark paper published by George Miller. It was in 1956. It was published in MIT University. The topic of that paper was well, back you can slide back. And the topic of that paper was seven magic numbers. What does it mean? It meant that five plus two chunks of a language. Every normal individual human being can keep or maintain five plus and minus two chunks of a language in their short-term memory. And what should we do in order to maintain these chunks of a language and send them to our long-term memory for our future recall? Here, we got to use the strategies. And the strategy introduced here is metacognition. This is what we're going to discuss it thoroughly at the end of this part of the workshop, and more in the next part of our workshop. We are supposed to maintain the chunks of a language in our short-term memory and send them into the long-term memory for our future recall. And how? By using strategy. And this is what we teachers should know, how we can manage a listening input. Next slide. Bye-bye. So if we're going to maintain that or those chunks of a language, we got to be strategic L2 listeners. And there are some instructional gaps. We're going to consider the instructional gap, the current approaches which are in practice, and then I would introduce you the innovation or innovative approach. What is your metaphor for listening? To me, that's like walking alone in a dense jungle, especially in the evening. What is your metaphor? Can you share your metaphor about listening? Zhang 2012 asked his learners about listening metaphor. They said climbing mountain, squeezing a tube of toothpaste, simmering hot soup, sailing in the ocean, crossing a glass maze. What is your dreaming? Swimming in the ocean, probably. Surrounding by people who speak, gibberish. Hiking. Very good. So that's your metaphor. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So many listening, thank you very much for sharing your metaphor with us. Many listening activities focus on the outcome of listening and asks learners for details of what they have heard or repeated. So that's all about the product of the listening without considering what the process is like. Next slide, please. And more instructional gaps. Learners are not asked how they do not understand, and this causes anxiety about listening. We keep testing rather teaching listening. Learners are provided with pre-listening stage, focusing on the background knowledge, and once the listening starts, they don't know what to do with the new accent, context, vocabulary knowledge. So, can you see? So we've got a pre-listening stage, but what if students have problem during listening? So these are the gaps in our instruction. Some teachers believe that students should not repeat the listening as it is like a real life situation. Look, in real life situation, that's going to be for testing. That's not going to be for teaching. Listeners are not normally taught any strategies to manage the process of listening input. And next slide, please. We've got further instructional gap. And lack of guidance. We never guide our listeners how they can self-direct or evaluate their efforts to improve their listening. And learners ask teachers. So this is a very good question. I'm going to ask you. Um, has it ever asked? Yeah, has it ever happened to you to ask your professors or teachers how listening, or has it ever happened to your students to ask you how to improve listening? What was your response to it? So that's good. What was your response? Transcription, practicing. How? Watching films. How? Listening podcasts. Yeah. That's like what? Diving in the swimming pool without knowing how to swim. Yeah. Yeah, the same story. That's the global issue. So normally, teachers are saying listening to songs more, watch more movies, listen to the radio, or watch the news on TV. So I never forget, because I started learning English when I was 19 years old, and I was very poor in English, and I was asking my professors how to improve at college, how to improve my listening. They responded similarly, and it was nightmare for me to listen to Voice of America, and I was elementary. I was really beginner in terms of English. How could I understand Voice of America? How could I understand CNN? How could I understand IRIB? I never forget. We in my days we had Channel 4, and there was a newscaster called Judy. She was an American woman, but she got married with an Iranian professor. She was living in Tehran, and she was a newscaster. She was casting the news on Channel 4. To be honest, I didn't understand that, but I kept watching it because my professor asked me to watch it as much as you could. So, homework to focus on transcription. This is what many of you have responded like that. Finding a native speaker to communicate. How can we find a native speaker, especially in Iran, to communicate in order to improve our listening? So instead, what is the way out? Teachers should help learners develop metacognition, regulating and controlling their learning and enhance thinking and comprehension. So strategy like metacognition. So we got to teach our students a kind of strategy so that he or she would be able to practice listening even out of the class independently. Next slide, please. So that's good. We are all on the same page. About approaches for listening instruction. Listening has found its place in classroom teaching for half a century, though it is still neglected and considered as a stepchild. My question is, how can we understand listening is still neglected in the classroom? How can we understand listening is still neglected in our classroom? Yeah, neglected. Okay. Actually, you all have answers for it. Lack of listening exercise, pronunciation, no practice, poor pronunciation, outcome. Now we've got a lot of good teachers with near native accent, but still they neglect listening. So, like we said before, because teachers, part of the reason is teachers were unsure of how to teach it. So, if you're going to understand, I'm sorry, if you're going to understand why listening is still, or how listening is still neglected, if you record a class, you would understand that uh, a teacher devotes probably 5 to 7 minutes for testing listening rather than teaching it, and the rest they are working either on what reading, speaking, or writing. Even writing sometimes is neglected as well, but this is not the issue we're going to discuss. And why is it considered as a stepchild compared with other skill? Because enough attention is not paid to listening comprehension, like a stepchild in a family. Now we all agree on this issue. We're going to consider the three commonly practiced approaches in listening since its early days. We've got uh, three types of listening instruction. The first one is text oriented instruction, the second one is communication oriented instruction, and the third one is learner oriented instruction. And each of which is going to be unpacked adequately in the preceding slide. But in text oriented instruction, it was fashionable in 1950s and 1960s when audiolingualism and direct methods what were in vogue those days. Lesson instruction was heavily influenced by reading and writing pedagogy. Can you see it? Listening was used to serve the purpose of reading and writing ability. So that was all about text oriented instruction. Communication oriented instruction, that was in fashion early 1970s, when communicative approach was in practice, and it was used in communicative syllabus design and learner oriented instruction. It was actually emerged late 1970s and 1980s. um, uh, Learner oriented instruction was coming when humanistic approach was fashionable then. And we've got known authors in the field like Stern, Wenden, and Robin, Oxford, O'Malley, and Shamu. And I reckon most of you have heard or have seen their ideas in your textbooks. And next slide, please. So the first one is text oriented instruction. What is that? What is the philosophy? The philosophy was listening causes to improve other skills. A heavy emphasis on decoding skill, imitation, memorization of sounds and grammar patterns, answer comprehension questions, and take dictation of written passage. So can you see? Everything is practiced, but everything is taught but listening. Quiz show format, short chunks of language for comprehension questions through multiple choices. Listening texts were written passages read aloud. In order to improve listening, even reading were read aloud. These passages were often lexically dense and grammatically complex. No reflection on the linguistic features of spoken text, because those days authentic material or materials were not in practice. That was all about text, and heavy text with heavy structure and complex structure. This tendency to test rather than teach listening in many classrooms. And table one, next slide, would show features of text-oriented instruction, Bobak. And so you can see text-oriented features for listening instruction, the philosophy for learning objectives, decoding sounds, phonemes, word, stress, sentence, level, intonation, lesson to imitate, memorize sounds and grammar patterns, identify relevant details from oral input, demonstrate understanding the passage. Can you see it? Listening input, words, phrases, sentences read aloud, written passages read aloud, no input as the audio. Classroom interaction, learner, teacher, individual listening. And learner response, discriminate sounds at word or sentence levels, write dictations of written passages, Answer comprehension questions based on the listening passage, so all about testing. Complete a written text with details from listening passage. So, what were the challenges with this? I'm sorry, with this text-oriented features. Listening not taught as a language skill. Can you see it? Learner comprehension is constantly assessed or tested informally. Listening passages are often dense and do not reflect linguistic features of spoken text. I hope I'm not fast so that you won't miss any points. So, can you see the challenge? So, because of these challenges, we're going to have new approach. What is that? Communication oriented instruction. Bobak. Next slide, please. Communication oriented instruction. So, what is this instruction? What is this instruction good for? Listening receives attention. So, here, little by little, we are seeing that listening is finding its own place. Attention as a distinct skill based on the European Council for Communicative Approach. When communicative approach was coming into the teaching field, so they are bringing listening as a distinct skill, and they believe that listening should be taught like other skills. Listening was presented as a set of complex skill and was taught separately. And that's the issue we're going to consider. CLT was successful and teachers were looking for innovative approaches to teach. Teachers were encouraged to move away from using long written passages. Can you remember? Text oriented long passages in favor of authentic material. So here we're going to have authentic material such as songs, movies, recorded conversation for listening. They are coming because we have the available portable radio cassette recorders and video recorders. This quickly became a reality in many classrooms. Cassette players were used to record conversation instead of carrying a heavy load of written text in this period. And table 2 would show the features of communication oriented instruction. Baba. Next slide, please. So, Bobak, are you available? Okay, Bobak, can you hear me? Oh, you got disconnected. So let me catch him through WhatsApp.
I'm sorry, sir. I was just
Oh, that's okay.
cut off for a second. I was
Oh, I heard you were disconnected. I was about to
yeah,
text
no,
you in WhatsApp. So next slide, please.
yeah.
So we've been discussing communication-oriented instruction.
This is workshop
Oh, yeah.
part 1. Okay, so we were at slide number 21.
Yes.
I believe.
Oh, yeah, next
Yeah,
slide,
yeah.
please. Oh, thank you very much. So what is the philosophy for communication-oriented instruction? If you look at the learning objectives, they were supposed to develop both macro and micro skills for listening, uh, but in the text-oriented, we had just micro skill. What does macro skill here means? It means that we got to just know about how language should be function, develop specific enabling skills for listening, and listening input here simultaneous learner talk, scripted or semi-scripted text with a high degree of authenticity, authentic listening oral interaction material. Can you see the difference? We have heavy and complex text in in writing. Classroom interaction, learner, teacher, individual listening, and learner response respond to a spoken text, not written text, yeah, in socially and contextually appropriate ways, like inferring attitudes, taking notes, identifying details, and complete missing information in text or discourse still they are testing. Like that's like talk show, yeah, or quiz show we have. Um, Use information from listening text for other communicative purposes. So, what were the challenges with communication oriented instruction in listening? Listening often neglected in thematic lessons that integrated the language skill. What does it mean? It means that listening was taught discretely and separately. It was not integrated with reading, writing, and speaking. That was the issue. Listening neglected in oral communication activities that focus more on speaking. I'm sure that all of you can remember, and for communicative approach, the focus is more on speaking. Even nowadays, a lot of students, when you ask them why they're going to learn a foreign language like English, they're going to say that they're going to improve their speaking. They never talk about their listening. Now, speaking is functioning like a tip of the iceberg. You know, the majority of the ice is under the water, and that's all about the listening. But it is highly neglected compared with other skills. A learner's indirectly assessed for comprehension. I'm sorry. Again, we can see testing for students' comprehension. Well, back next slide. Okay, a learner-oriented instruction. So we've had text-oriented instruction. It has got its own demerits, and we have communication-oriented instruction. It had some merits and also demerits, and now we're just considering learner-oriented instruction. What is this instruction is like? Several learner-oriented development in the field of language teaching and learning in the last 3 decades have had an influence on listening instruction, like good language learner. And we've got authors and researchers in the field. They have provided strategy-based approach to teach listening. And I'm going to introduce you to two landmark researchers who published in two top-tier journals, one in Canadian Modern Language Review, another in TESOL Quarterly. I'm sorry, that's the consequence of COVID. Um, they published in two top-tier journals, and their names were Stern. It was in 1975. Another was Robin in 1975 again. Stern wrote a paper on good language learner, and Stern published a paper on what the good language learner can help us. You know, they were observing a good language learner. They were observing a good language learner to see what sort of strategy a good language learner used. Then they would be able to choose this strategy for teaching other learners. And because of that, we've got a category of strategy, learning strategy, introduced by O'Malley and Shamu in 1990, the cognitive strategy, metacognitive strategy, and socio-affective strategies. And the model they developed to classify learning strategy contains an executive or metacognitive function to direct learning, in addition to operative or cognitive processing function that involves interaction with the material to be learned and apply specific techniques to a learning task. They use socio-affective strategies. What was it good for? It was good for motivating and helping students' emotion for improving learning. Learner oriented instruction comes closest to teaching learners how to listen. So, can you see, little by little, gradually, we've come to the point. Learner oriented is very close to teach how to listen. And table 3 provides the features of learner oriented instruction. Well, like next slide, please. So, what is the philosophy and learning objective? Use listening strategies. So, can you see? Strategies are coming along. Use listening strategies for enhancing comprehension and coping with the problems. And learn listening input. Develop metacognitive awareness about L2 listening. You might not know what metacognitive is. I can explain a little bit here, and then I can thoroughly walk you through what this process is. When we say cognition, everyone knows cognition, knowing, and when we say meta, means beyond. When we say metacognition, it means that cognition about cognition, thinking about thinking. So that's called metacognitive awareness. It means that students should be aware of what they are listening. And spontaneous learner talk and scripted or semi-scripted text with a high degree of authenticity. So can you see the word authenticity is still with us, um, like communicative approach or communication-oriented listening instruction. Authentic listening, oral interaction material, no written like text-oriented instruction. Classroom interaction, learner, teacher, individual listening. Here, the difference is individual listening. It means that learners are supposed to teach how to listen and how to self-direct their listening. That's like independent approach to improve their own listening after the class. So you're asking how. This is what we're going to uh, discuss it next hour or next part of the thirdly strategy. This is what I will explain thoroughly in the next part of our workshop. Learner response. Respond to spoken text in socially contextually appropriate ways. Inferring attitude, taking notes, identifying detail. Can you see? So these cognitive strategies are coming along while students are listening. Complete missing information in text or discourse. Still, we are testing through comprehension questions. Applying Apply strategies for comprehension and learning. Introspect on strategy use and listening experience. So now we are saying that learner-oriented instruction is very close to how to teach, unlike communication-oriented instruction, text-oriented instruction. But still, this approach has its own challenges for learners. Learners become aware of strategies, like one of you was asking. Learners become aware of strategies, but the lesson do not always allow them to experience the use of these strategies in more tangible way. A lot of teachers claim that they are using strategies in the classroom, but they are not operationally or practically using this strategy or getting their learners to use these strategies practically in the classroom. That's the issue for learner-oriented instruction. Learning to listen is often an individual affair, and listeners do not benefit sufficiently from the knowledge and experiences of others. Learners lack a variety of structural support and that assist them in their overall development of listening abilities. So these are the challenges. And based on text oriented instruction, communication oriented instruction, learner oriented instruction, we're going to have another innovative approach to teach listening. Go back next slide. We're going to have more holistic approach to L2 listening instruction. So, despite progress in communication oriented and learner oriented approaches, we still see teachers focus more on text oriented activities such as quiz show in the classroom. If I ask you which approach you have had the experience or probably you practice in the classroom, what would be your response? Text oriented, communication oriented, or learner oriented approach? Can you respond? Yeah, text oriented. It goes back to 1950s and 1960s. That's good. Learner oriented. Very good. Even learner oriented is around 4 decades old, more than 3 decades old. Okay, good one. What do you think what the reason is? Because new ideas of teaching not transferred probably. Yeah, property, I'm sorry. Property, yeah. So do you agree with this idea? New ideas of teaching not transferred property. Yeah, good one. A quick overview of the textbook helps you realize that students are required to respond to comprehension questions, writing summaries, selecting words from the computer screen to complete sentences from the listening passage. Can you see all of them? A comprehension-based technique, the same story. The purpose of communication-oriented listening approach is to ask for gist, details, prediction, and making inferences. The ultimate goal is comprehension. If we consider the product, the outcome of listening, then every activity becomes a test of the learner's listening ability only, rather than a means for understanding the social and cognitive nature of developing and using these listening skills. Yeah? Go back, next slide. So, then what is the way out? So, we've been critically considering three commonly practiced approaches. What were they? I recursively mentioned that text oriented, communication oriented, learner oriented instruction. So, what is the way out? What is the solution? We got to use metacognitive instruction. What is metacognitive instruction? Metacognitive instruction is a response to intrinsic challenges within the three types of listening instruction. Teachers need to enhance the metacognitive activities about listening through student engagement. So, can you see how much students were engaged in the listening? Students were tested rather than asking for their contribution to listening. We got to deepen learner understanding of themselves as L2 listeners, raise greater awareness of the demands and processes of L2 listening, and teach learners how to manage their comprehension and learning. The cycle guides, we got to guide our listeners or learners here through important metacognitive processes. What are they? Like prediction, verification, monitoring, problem solving, and evaluation. That's all about the processes used by effective listeners as well as effective learners. So we got to just go for metacognitive instruction. Next slide, please, Roland. And now we are getting almost at the end of our workshop, for part one. And we've got discussion questions. Think of a group of learners that you know or teach. What are their problems with learning to listen? Can you respond? And what kind of support? This is what I'm going to ask you after. So fear. So are they afraid of their teachers? Concentration, stress, how to listen, anxiety, stress. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, they are all anxious. Lack of focus. And it is really hard, even for us teachers, to concentrate more than a few seconds. Lack of confidence. So even we teachers have problem. We shouldn't blame our learners because we teachers might not know how to teach it, and how can we expect our learners to listen or how to listen? Okay, thank you very much for the problems you've shared with us. What kind of support do they get from their teachers to deal with these problems you've mentioned, like fear, lack of concentration? Nothing. Yeah, thank you for your honest. Yeah, honest response. Very good. Practice, repeat. All tradition. Encourage nothing, exactly. Practice. Uh-huh. Motivate them. Chunking. Okay. So, to be honest, we should train our teachers um, what kind of support our teacher would receive, let alone our learners are going to receive support from our teachers. So, the challenge is that we got to teach our teachers how to teach listening, then that teacher is going to teach how to listen to his or her learners. Okay, thank you very much. And I reckon it is the end of this part of the workshop. And the plan is we're going to have 10 minutes, 10 minutes break. So before you stay away from this part of the workshop, I want you to get that quick message to take away. Listening process should be taken into account, not the product. Listening must be taught, not tested through comprehension questions. Teachers must be trained the process of listening strategically, not the product traditionally. This is what we're going to mainly focus in the next part of our workshop. Teachers should be updated on the innovative approaches and new research finding in the field. And thanks to Dr. Kiani and his team, and they are making a way for you to have the what to be aware of the innovative approach and new research finding through series of workshops have been provided. Yeah, that's all about the quick message for you to take away. Thank you. Yeah, part one, the end. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Bye bye. So we're going to have a 10 to 15 minutes break, and then we'll be back.
Good. So we'll see you again in about 10 to 15 minutes. It's 10:23. So I reckon we're going to start at about
Quarter to
10:35 or 40. Yeah, yeah.
quarter
So
to 11 is okay,
sure, sir.
or
Yeah,
or
definitely.
22. Oh, quarter to 11. Yeah,
A
10:45.
quarter
Yeah.
to 11. So
Uh,
we'll start at 10:45. See you again, guys.
yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Yeah. Thank you, Bobak, for your contribution. Bye for now. Okay. I've been walking through your messages, and one of the complaints was saying that, was saying that we've been discussing the theoretical um, aspect of teaching listening. My response is actually, my intention was to let you know about the. I reckon you have my voice. All right. So I've just come to show up, and if anyone has comments or questions, then um, in a few minutes I will start the next part of our workshop. And yeah, thank you, everyone. So my response to that question is that we got to know what the rationale, what the philosophy behind what we do as a teacher. It would definitely help us to be more effective teacher in our classroom. And this part, I mean, the second part of our workshop, we mainly focus on how to listen through metacognitive instruction. And each and every slide would strike what metacognition is and what metacognitive instruction is and what metacognitive strategies are. This is what I'm going to focus on that. Share the slides. So yeah, the slide would be shared later on. Don't worry about it. Okay, now it is 10:45. We can start. So a metacognitive pedagogical sequence. Is Bobak available? Bobak, can we start? So let me get the green light and then I will start. Bobak, are you available? So, till Bobak is, yeah, Bobak is around. That's good. Actually, now I've got a full control of this slide. I can shift it myself. During the break, I fixed the problem. Oh, somebody's saying that no voice. So I reckon majority have my voice. That's because of the internet. Someone was saying that the fan of my laptop is not on, but fortunately it's not. The laptop is cool enough not to use the fan to make noise. Okay. Let me give you a quick overview of what we have covered in the last part of our workshop. So now everyone or every individual or participant in the workshop knows that we have covered three commonly practiced listening instruction like text-oriented, communication-oriented, and learner-oriented instruction. And despite the fact that communication oriented and learner oriented instruction have had the merits, still many teachers are sticking to the text oriented instruction, which goes back to more than half a century. So, um, what are we going to focus in this part of our workshop, which is more practical? Though the first part of this workshop, we're going to focus on what metacognition is, what metacognitive strategies are. The intention is you teachers must have a clear idea of what you're going to teach in the classroom in terms of strategies. Otherwise, if a random question is thrown to you, you might not be able to answer So if anyone asks you about the intention of using this strategy, and if you don't have what a good response, then your security as a teacher would be under a big question. And because of that, I'm going to make you well aware of what we're going to focus in this part of the workshop, and metacognitive pedagogical sequence is the focus. A quick snapshot of what we're going to consider. Again, we're going to have scenario. This is what the practical part of our workshop is. Then we're going to analyze the scenario, and your reflections are going to be collected. And what is that we're going to cover in terms of metacognition and metacognitive processes, and the components of metacognitive processes, like planning, how we're going to do planning for listening activity, how we're going to do monitoring for comprehension, and how we're going to solve comprehension problem, all practical stuff. And then you're going to be introduced the model through which you would be able to use that in your classroom every day. That's metacognitive pedagogical sequence. And finally, I have brought an activity so that we would be able to act out metacognitive instruction practically in the classroom, and you would take away something good or innovative approach from this workshop practically. And scenario. As I want you to read it silently, and I would read it to you very slowly so that you have a better picture of what the content of this scenario is about. This scenario is focusing on the observation of real life classroom, but I reckon hardly have you ever observed such a class, or have you ever seen such a class. And M. Obert tells his class that they will listen to an interview with a university student about his summer job as a carriage driver in Quebec City, in Canada. He asked them to think about the nature of this kind of oral text, an interview with someone about his or her work, and to anticipate the types of questions the interviewer might ask. He writes the key words of all the suggested questions on the board. Once the learners have exhausted all question possibilities, he invites them to anticipate possible responses based on their knowledge of Quebec City and the nature of summer jobs. Learners jot down keywords of possible responses alongside the questions in their notes. Learners now listen to the text for the first time. So, can you see? Pre listening stage. Now, still, students are going to listen. Placing a check mark beside the questions and answers that they recognize in the text. Once they have listened to the text, the learners write down any other information they understood. So, engagement. In pairs, they share with each other what they understood, discuss discrepancies or differences in understanding, and then decide where to pay particular attention during the second lesson. So, after the first lesson, this is what the activity they have done practically. And second lesson, after the second lesson, they make necessary revisions to earlier notes and add new information. Once again, they compare notes with their partners and make necessary additions and revisions. They have revised their predictions and their understanding after second listening. M. Obert now leads the class in discussion. Learners share what they have understood. When he determines that the main points and important supporting details have been stated, M. Albert asks them to listen for a third time to verify any of the main points and details they did not recognize earlier. Can you see the support? Today, this final lesson will also include following along with the transcript of the text. Here, we're supposed to help our students. We're not supposed to catch our students red-handed, whether how much they didn't understand, so that learners can match sound with written form. The activity concludes with a class discussion of what learners did not resolve, difficulties, and the effectiveness of their approach to the activity. Based on this discussion, learners then write goals for the next listening activity. So now I want you to uh, read it carefully so that we would be able to analyze it in the next slide. So if you're ready, please type 1 so that I would be able to follow you. Okay, majority are ready. Scenario analysis. What does a teacher do? Teacher introduces the topic for listening. That was about summer job. Learners provide any questions about the interview or the topic, like the summer job carriage driver. I'm sorry. They took notes of keywords and predictions. Then they have a first listening. They would check mark, share their predictions with a partner, revise their notes and understanding after second listening, and the teacher leads a class discussion about details. Finally, they listen to the third time. What if, a few students did not understand a particular word because of the pronunciation or the sound stream? The teacher helped them to match with the transcripts and reflect on what is the better way to improve their listening next time they're going to listen. So, can you see it? This is the scenario analysis. These are the steps through which a teacher is to take to teach listening comprehension. Can you see any trace of comprehension questions? Any test? So, no testing. Here we are teaching the listening process step by step. And I'm going to introduce you the steps and explain about each and every stage we teachers need to take. So, a previous slide. There you go. You want me to turn off my webcam? That's okay. I can turn it off. So can you see it? So then, it would be a little bit boring for the participants if they don't see the teacher.
Okay, if you have any problem with actually
Uh,
seeing this,
that's
the
That's
slides.
gonna
I'm sorry,
be
sir. You
yeah.
can just use magnifier to zoom in or zoom out, and you
Hmm.
can actually uh, reo- reorganize the boxes in your display. All the participants actually could do this, so you can use options to organize your screen so that you
Yeah.
can see well.
So thank you very much, Babak, for your uh, explanation. And so we've got scenario analysis. Now everyone has got a good picture of what the scenario is and what the analysis is like. Now let's go further. So about your reflections, good questions to ask like, how does the opening of this listening activity resemble the opening of a traditional listening lesson? How is it different? So is it like what we used to have? The difference, yeah, here is the engagement. Similarity could be providing background knowledge, but that was not like asking the learners to check out the comprehension questions and multiple answers. So can you see it? So it is quite different. That's the innovation of this workshop. We're going to teach listening process, not the listening product. Yeah, prediction. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Number two, do you think this activity reflects real life listening? Give your reasons. Yeah, about summer job. Yeah, that's the topic. That's going to be the reason. That's authentic. And how does M. Ober develop student metacognitive awareness of L2 listening? Number three. So somebody's asking summer job. What do you mean? I meant that's the job. Everyone knows about it in real life. So the third question, metacognitive awareness. So the teacher, yeah, about engagement or engaging. Yeah, you said asking questions. No, but there are. I mean, teachers helping them to check out what they have provided as the predictions. Mhm. And number four, what do these learners discover about the process of listening? Uh-huh. Process of listening. So if you've seen, learners were going through different steps and stages. Can you see it? This is what they are getting aware of what the listening process is like. Once the process is taken into account, the product is going to be guaranteed. Yeah. And the last question, how does M. Obert verify comprehension? Do you think he does so adequately? First, how does he verify comprehension? How? By interaction, by per interaction, group discussion, and finally checking out what the partly transcription or part of the transcription or whole transcription? Okay. So that's all about your reflections. Thank you very much for sharing them with us. Allah, what's wrong? Oh, it seems that
Yeah, apparently
the PowerPoint
slideshow is
has gone
closed.
away.
Yeah, you can just
Babak, are you
actually.
available? What
Yes,
happened to
sir.
the Sky Room?
It is closed apparently. I would open it again for you.
So it seems that, oh yeah, it's getting back.
So,
Okay.
uh, do you have the control panel, sir?
No.
Uh, so آقای دکتر از گوشه سمت راست بالا سه تا دات روی هم هست
So
کنار
can you hear
اس.
me, everyone?
Yes, sir, we
Oh,
can
it
hear
seems that
you.
I'm getting disconnected.
Can you hear me,
So,
sir?
but the PowerPoint has gone away.
I think now you can control it, sir.
Oh, but can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me? I can hear you loud and clear. Sir, can you hear me?
Babak, is it possible to delete the first PowerPoint for the previous hour? It seems that something goes wrong.
Yes, I would delete it if you can hear me.
So it seems that Babak doesn't.
دوستان صدای من رو دارید شما؟ اگر صدام رو دارید یک yes یا یک بنید. Okay. Everyone can hear me, sir. But you.
So I'm just uploading the PowerPoints again. Hopefully it works. So probably, yeah, let's listen to you log it in.